Fascism, A Warning by Madeleine Albright is a timely and incisive book that explores the history, evolution, and implications of fascism in modern society. As a former U.S. Secretary of State and a refugee from World War II-era Europe, Albright draws on her personal experiences and extensive knowledge to provide a compelling analysis of the dangers posed by authoritarianism and the erosion of democratic values. This book serves as both a historical examination and a cautionary tale, highlighting how the lessons of the past can inform our understanding of the present and future. Overview of Fascism. Albright begins by defining fascism as a political ideology rooted in authoritarianism, nationalism, and the suppression of dissent. She emphasizes that while the term is often used loosely, true fascism is characterized by the concentration of power in a single leader, the rejection of democratic norms, and the use of violence or intimidation to silence opposition. Drawing from the examples of historical fascist leaders such as Benito Mussolini and Adolf Hitler, she outlines the conditions that allowed these figures to rise to power and the devastating consequences of their regimes. The author underscores that fascism thrives in times of political and economic instability, when citizens feel disillusioned with their governments and yearn for strong leadership to restore order. This pattern, she argues, is not confined to the early 20th century, but can reemerge in any era if vigilance against authoritarian tendencies is not maintained. Historical context and case studies. Albright provides detailed case studies of fascist leaders and regimes, starting with Mussolini, who coined the term fascism and established the first fascist state in Italy. She explores how Mussolini capitalized on Italy's post-World War I economic struggles and nationalist sentiments to consolidate power, using propaganda and violence to suppress dissent and expand his control. Hitler's rise to power in Germany is another central focus of the book. Albright examines how Hitler exploited Germany's economic woes and national humiliation after World War I to rally support for his vision of a racially pure, militarized state. She highlights the role of propaganda, scapegoating, and systematic violence in enabling the Nazi regime to implement its genocidal policies and plunge the world into a catastrophic war. In addition to these well-known examples, Albright discusses other authoritarian figures, such as Francisco Franco in Spain and Augusto Pinochet in Chile, to illustrate the diverse manifestations of fascism and its ability to adapt to different cultural and political contexts. Fascism in the modern world. One of the most compelling aspects of Fascism, A Warning, is its analysis of contemporary politics. Albright argues that while outright fascist regimes are rare today, many leaders and movements exhibit authoritarian tendencies that echo the hallmarks of fascism. She identifies warning signs such as the erosion of democratic institutions, attacks on the free press, and the scapegoating of minority groups. Albright examines the rise of populist leaders around the world, including Vladimir Putin in Russia, Recep Tayyip Erdogan in Turkey, and Viktor Orban in Hungary. She also scrutinizes the state of democracy in the United States, warning that even established democracies are not immune to the lure of authoritarianism. She discusses how divisive rhetoric, polarization, and the weakening of democratic norms create fertile ground for authoritarian leaders to exploit. While Albright is careful not to label contemporary leaders as outright fascists, she stresses the importance of recognizing and resisting authoritarian tendencies before they escalate into full-blown fascism. Her analysis serves as a wake-up call for citizens, politicians, and policymakers to protect democratic values and institutions. Albright's personal experiences add a deeply human dimension to her analysis. As a child, she fled her native Czechoslovakia with her family to escape the Nazi occupation. Later, they were forced to flee again when the country fell under Soviet control. These experiences shaped her understanding of the fragility of democracy and the importance of standing up to tyranny. Throughout the book, Albright shares anecdotes from her time as Secretary of State and her encounters with world leaders. These stories provide unique insights into the dynamics of power and the challenges of defending democracy in a complex and interconnected world. Her reflections on the responsibilities of leadership and the importance of moral courage are particularly poignant and inspiring. The role of citizens. A central theme of Fascism, a warning contra, is the role of ordinary citizens in preventing the rise of authoritarianism. Albright emphasizes that democracy is not self-sustaining and requires active participation and vigilance. She urges readers to stay informed, engage in political processes, and hold leaders accountable. She also highlights the importance of fostering a culture of respect and dialogue, even in the face of political disagreements. Albright warns against complacency and the belief that it can't happen here. She argues that democracy is most vulnerable when citizens take it for granted and fail to recognize the early signs of authoritarianism. Her call to action is a powerful reminder that the preservation of freedom and democracy depends on the collective efforts of individuals, communities, and nations. Lessons for the future. In the final chapters, Albright outlines strategies for countering authoritarianism and strengthening democratic institutions. She emphasizes the need for international cooperation to address global challenges such as economic inequality, climate change, and the rise of extremist ideologies. She also advocates for policies that promote social cohesion, protect human rights, and ensure equal opportunities for all citizens. Albright stresses the importance of education in fostering critical thinking and an understanding of history. She argues that an informed and engaged citizenry is the best defense against the spread of authoritarian ideas. By learning from the past and remaining vigilant in the present, she believes that societies can build a more just and democratic future. Fascism, a Warning is a powerful and thought-provoking book that combines historical analysis, personal reflection, and practical advice to address one of the most pressing issues of our time. Madeleine Albright's insights and experiences make her uniquely qualified to examine the dangers of authoritarianism and the challenges of defending democracy in an increasingly polarized world. The book serves as both a historical primer and a call to action, urging readers to recognize the warning signs of fascism and take steps to protect democratic values. Albright's message is clear. The fight against authoritarianism is not a relic of the past, but an ongoing struggle that requires vigilance, courage, and a commitment to justice. By heeding her warning, individuals and societies can help ensure that the lessons of history are not forgotten and that the principles of democracy continue to thrive.